off air. Okay, we are live. So this week we had the case from Jim Sharpe, extrusion technology. So really 5 simple questions. So we'll start with number 1. Assess this venture from Jim Sharpe's perspective.
I kind of feel like that's what the case was in and of itself.
I did too. It's kind of like, this is where I came from, this is what I did, this is how I got there. I mean, even in the case study, he tells, you know, how he learned all the different things he learned from the different places that he worked. So how about, could we get some background on how he got where he did?
Well, he worked a bunch of corporate jobs, learned a lot. Like, his list of things he learned was pretty comprehensive, I felt, and decided he wanted to do it on his own instead of with a big corporation, and so spent a while looking around trying to find a company to buy. And eventually found one that kind of met the criteria he had outlined, and was able to make the deal and purchase it. And so the case ended like, oh, this is my first day on the job. I'm just meeting all the employees, and the previous owner just walked out.
Right. I thought it was interesting that he had worked for General Electric under Jack Welch, and I'm sure everybody's probably taken a class where we've done a case study about Jack Welch, because that is like a pretty good mentor there. Jen, what do you think as far as his perspective and how he saw himself?
Well, I like that he knew what he wanted, you know, and he took the time and made the sacrifices that he needed to in order to be prepared for himself and for his family to find what he wanted. And then I liked that he made a list of criteria. Some of the criteria I would have done differently, but we can talk about that as it comes up. But he made this list, and then he made a short list, and then he went through it. And I was feeling kind of bad for him as it was going through, you know, this business deal didn't work, and this business deal didn't end up working. And I remember when my husband graduated from college and we were looking at different places, and, you know, of course, as a woman, you get online and you look and see what's for sale, you know, what homes are for sale. And I remember finding some and thinking, oh, I could put the Christmas lights right here, you know, kind of thinking that it was going to go, and then it didn't. And so I understood his disappointment is, you know, he's picturing himself in that office working, and then it falls through, and the disappointment that must be. And I was surprised really at how long it took for him to find something. I don't remember exactly. Was it like 9 months?
Yeah, you said 10 months and 21 days. I think that's interesting that he had to put the 21 days. So obviously a very intense search. And I don't know if there's any of the other questions that actually talks about his criteria. So we could go ahead and talk about that. So he basically, he drew a line, 50-mile radius of his home. And do you guys remember how many companies that he found in that radius?
600, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 600. And then he had this little chart, and he said out of those, he made contact with 60 of them. And if I'm reading the chart right, it says he actually made offers on 12 companies and received financing on 3 of them. So like Jen said, you know, he obviously made the offers. He thought that's what, you know, he was going to buy, and then it didn't go through. So a lot of ups and downs to get to where he found something that was right for him. One thing that, and I guess maybe we'll go on to the next question and bring this up, but
can we say that his wife is like a saint for working this entire time? And he's like, I have 10 months. It's cool. She can just work. No worries.
While she's pregnant.
I think she
I know, right?
Too.
I was like, and he's like, yeah, it's cool. We got time because my wife's working. I'm like,
yeah, she's probably not now, but I think she was a chemical engineer. Is that what I read?
So she'd get a nice high-paying job, I'm sure.
Oh, totally.
She probably did make really good money, but nonetheless, I just thought it was funny where he was like, well, I have at least 10 months. I'm like, or whatever he said his time frame was. And I was like, oh, well, sure. It's cool. She'll just work, dude. No worries.
I'm sure he really felt that deadline tighten when she got pregnant.
Well,
Oh,
he did
yeah.
say
no,
that
right?
he did say there was no way that he could work and look for a company to buy at the same time. That it was really intense that he was doing it all the time.
I know he did say he couldn't even look for a job while he was looking for a company to buy. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, if you're analyzing 600 companies, I mean, that's a lot of busy work.
Right. Right. No, I could see that. I did think it was kind of funny, but I could see maybe if that's what her job was, she probably really loved it. So maybe she really didn't mind, you know, she liked working. So, okay, on to question number 2. How has Jim Sharpe purchased his venture? What are the implications of this financial structure?
Okay, so this is the question I'm referring to when I'm talking about the criteria, because Jim Sharpe has funded this through debt. And it's not debt with a venture capitalist company where, you know, they liquidate the company and they take all of the assets, and if there's nothing left for you, then you just walk away. This is, he's responsible for that debt no matter what happens to that company. And I was really concerned when his list said, you know, he didn't care what the financial condition was of the company. I just thought that was really risky. Now, he obviously did research financially, and he could see areas where he could lower costs and improve the financial situation. But I think if I was personally responsible for $2 million worth of debt, I would want something that was more secure from the very beginning. Sure, you can make some improvements, but boy, those improvements had better be big if you've got something that's just mediocre.
Yes.
Right. So I thought it was interesting that he actually used a combination of his own equity, so he put some money in, and then the leveraged buyout. And I kind of studied up on that a little bit because I really thought the debt to equity ratio was super high. And they said, this is interesting, this is off Investopedia, but they actually, when they do the leverage buyout like he did, it's not uncommon to have a ratio of 90% debt to 10% equity.
Oh man.
So like Jen said, that is like, yeah, I would feel really stressed taking on that much debt. But I did think it was interesting that the previous owner, there were lots of little clues about things that he could do. And I guess we'll get into that in question 4 when we talk about the action plan, but little things he could do to make the company better. Because basically the owner, I think it was Mr. Jones, kind of been, you know, like he said, they had hidden cars and they had people on the payroll that weren't working. They were paying health insurance for parents that weren't working. So I think there were a lot of things that Sharpe must have seen that caused him to think, oh, I could change that and, you know, make it more profitable.
He must have, because there were so many things as I was reading through that told me run away as fast as you can. You know, the fact that he was not allowed to speak to any of the employees or the customers and suppliers.
Yeah.
I totally thought that too. I was like, why is he buying this company? Why is he buying it?
Yeah, he did.
I totally agree.
And then he kept dropping little information bombs like, oh yeah, there's a union, you should probably get rid of them. You know what I thought?
Oh, by the way, they have hidden company cars.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, I thought it was also interesting that the owner, you know, they kept negotiating and he just kept coming back. The owner kept coming back to this $2 million figure just because he wanted to say, I got $2 million for my business. And I thought that was kind of weird, but then, you know, he makes the deal and he restructures it so that really the owner, you know, they're actually putting 1.2 million was back on paper. So he wasn't technically getting 2 million, but he just wanted people to think, you know, that he could. So, oh, and I think Jen already kind of touched on this where it was risky in that, you know, he could buy this and then it could go under and then he would be, you know, responsible for that that large amount of debt.
Well, I
So
thought
does
the
anybody have
stipulations
questions? Oh, go
that
ahead.
he put in, the seller was like, oh, well, if you go belly up, I get to come in and take as much as I can to pay back. I was
99%.
like, dang, who is this guy? Because I would be running, because it's not like he's getting rid of him. It's not like he bought it outright and this guy's going away. He's got him for at least 5 years because of his non-compete clause. He's got him at least 5 years because he's paying health insurance on him and his parents. Like, what? I would have been like, no, see ya, bye.
Yeah, it was kind of quirky. I thought the guy was a little quirky. So
Yeah, I would
anything
really
else
like
on
to know.
question number 2?
Yeah,
I
and
would
for
really
being
like
so
to know what-
desperate to sell, you'd think the previous owner would be willing to compromise more points.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
they
would,
said he was young too. Sorry, Jen, go ahead.
that's okay. I'd really like to know what it was that he saw so much potential in, because we're all just dumbfounded that he went with it. So there must have been something that he'd seen. So what he mentions, the materials, was the over purchase of materials like so much that would be the one thing that would fix it? I mean, what was the one thing that was worth saving this company?
I think what at least this is what I put under number 4 is that he felt like the margins and the pricing were not in line, and that was the biggest opportunity for him to make some profit. So I think he saw, like, and also they were small. They were a smaller company, so they kind of fit into this little niche. So I'm not surprised. I think maybe the reason he bought it too, he had total confidence in his skill to turn around a underperforming manufacturing company, because he'd already done it, 3 times. So I don't know. I'm actually not as surprised that he bought it. I just think when you look at it on paper, it just looks really scary. So, okay. So anything else on number 2 and the financial structure of the deal? Okay. So here we are, number 3. What should Jim Sharpe do on his first day as owner of Extrusion Technology?
I think he should start talking to the people who work there, considering he wasn't allowed to do that. Because I think that's going to be the most help for him in seeing how to go forward, by talking to the people who do it every single day.
Right. Jen,
I
what do you
chose the
think?
same thing. Oh, sorry, Jen. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. So I was just thinking, when I wrote up my analysis, I used the word audit. He needs to audit a multiple of things. And one of them was the employees, starting with the supervisors. You'll find out who does what job and who, like who's taking care of this machine that he's supposed to learn about. What are their roles? What is their pay? What are the benefits? What's going on with the union? Why do we have this union? What are the issues that made you feel like you had to form this union? And is there a way we can drop the union and still do this together? But the human resources was the first thing that I thought he should audit. And then the quality control was the next thing to audit. If these machines are old, is it worth paying for a new one in order to have better quality? So you're using less materials because there's, you're doing it right the first time, or does their maintenance need to be improved? All of these kinds of things. And then audit the relationships with the suppliers. If they're spending too much, I'm saying materials because he brought that up several times, but if he's spending too much on materials, is there a problem with the relationships with the suppliers? And which relationships does he need to further and pursue and make better, and which ones can he drop? And then he needed to audit who he was selling to. Maybe he's got all these little small orders coming in, and he needs to seek bigger ones so that he can use the machine in one way for a longer period, and be more efficient with it that way. So there's all kinds of, audit in every single category.
I like that. That's a really good way of looking at it. I guess I misunderstood the question a little bit. I was thinking like first day he's standing in front of everybody,
Oh, I'm sorry. I
And
skipped ahead and I was talking about the next 6 months. Sorry.
Oh no, but it's still the same. Like, I'm thinking, what's he going to say to all these people as he's standing in front of them? I've just changed the name of your company. I'm the new boss. And so I was thinking that he needed to be like develop trust with them. And when I took the pre-test, you know, you take the, or the pre-poll, it had that in there. So I guess I kind of hyper focused on that because I felt like there are all the issues that Jen just said. There's so much to audit, so much to find out about, but he's got to gain the trust of the employees. And so I just kind of came up with like 5, and I actually, these are not my own ideas. This is from the CEO of Lockheed Martin. And she said, you got to affirm your values. So the employees need to know that he wants to, you know, develop trust with them, share his vision and strategy for what's going to happen there, be honest and transparent, get to know each employee personally, and then offer genuine thanks for what they've already done at Press Alloys and how they can contribute in the future. So I was just kind of thinking the very first day, you know, just trying to develop some trust with the employees, because really they are his biggest resource, is the employees. So let's just go ahead and go on to what, Casey or Becky, did you have anything else to say under that on the first day?
I also chose to speak with the employees. I feel like we heard as like with the union talk. I mean, the guy was, they said in there that they got that, the employees wrote that they wanted to disband the union, and yet the owner completely ignored that. So I feel like maybe he never listened to his employees. So in order to build that rapport and get them to trust him, because the owner walked in, was basically like, hey, he's changing the name, I'm out, bye. That's it, and leaves. He obviously didn't have a good relationship with his employees. And, you know, this could actually turn out to be super profitable for him because he didn't have that relationship with the employees. And this guy's going to come in, build this relationship. They're going to work harder because they're going to want bonuses or whatever he ends up doing. So anyways, that was my choice to do the employees.
I like what you said about building a rapport. Becky, how about you? Anything else?
Yep, my answer kind of echoed little bits of all of yours, so.
Okay. Let's go on to number 4. And Jen already gave a really good list of all the auditing that needs to be done. How would you guys break it? Like, how would you prioritize that? Like, what are you going to do the first 6 months? What are you going to do the next 12 months? How would you prioritize? What would your priorities be? And I know Jen already gave us a really good list, but.
Like, when I was thinking about it, like, I think that this was part of the reason I put, you know, build up the employees' trust, like talk to the employees, is because they'd help him recognize what needed to be prioritized.
Yeah, that's good.
Because coming into a company kind of blind like that, where he hadn't been able to talk to them before and to really kind of get an idea of how the company was functioning internally, if you don't have that, you're going to prioritize something you think is important that actually isn't a major problem while ignoring something that's a major problem. So mine was kind of loose in that he'd have to get a deeper understanding of the situation before he could really kind of make that judgment call, I guess.
Well, no, that's good to ask for the employees' input on, you know, what needed to be done.
Well, that's what I mean when I use the word audit.
Right.
You know, that you've got to delve into what the issues really are, and you have, you know, you can make a list. Here's what's wrong, here's what's good, you know, what can we do? And I like coming into a situation, being open and asking questions, and listening to the answer. Is, you know, you could sit down and pretty soon, you know, you say, okay, what's going on in the company? And everyone's talking at once, kind of like how, you know, we can't tell who's speaking sometimes and we talk over each other. But to ask questions and listen, but listen to it both ways. You know, he has a lot of experience, and I think, you know, if he's asking them what their opinion is, then he can take his experience and ask ways that they've tried to apply it, or maybe some ideas. You know, have you tried applying it this way? Can we work together to figure this out? It needs to be a two-way communication.
Yes.
I like that. I like the idea of the employee feeling like this is the new owner, but he wants to work with me. He values my input. I really like that. Casey, how about you as far as an action plan? What would your priorities be?
I totally agree. I would definitely get some form of HR up in there because there clearly is not one. And
No.
I would work on, I think I'd work, thank you. I think I would work on, sorry. I think I would work on pricing second, because he clearly thinks there's money to be made there, and he needs to be able to start on that right away, because he's got a lot of money to pay back before he starts making any. So I'd probably start with the employees and then go to pricing after that.
Right, I like that. I had this weird idea, and maybe it's just because, oh, go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say, at the same time as pricing, I think he really needs to take a look at the realities of the equipment that he has. Because he says in his proposal to the bank, you know, that it could last a long time, but he also admits in the case that he doesn't have any idea. And
Right.
so,
and that would go
there's
along
a
with
lot
your
of
idea of
things to
auditing
take-
it.
Yeah, it needs to take place simultaneously.
That's really true, though, because the guy has been fixing it himself. So it probably needs to be evaluated.
Yeah, it's hard to make a list and say, do this first and do this second and do this third. It's almost like, okay, we need to have these 3 things done all simultaneously, and who's the best people to do that.
Yeah, he needs to get a good team in place and start multitasking and get things taken care of.
Yes.
Those are all really good. Okay, so I had a really, now it sounds kind of like a dumb idea that everybody's had all these great ideas, but it kept talking about, not kept, but it brought up how the building was in disrepair, the outside needed weeded, it hadn't been painted in years. And for me, if it were me, the first thing I would do is I would get the building cleaned up, I'd paint it, I'd get it weeded and landscaped, because I think that would really boost morale and let people know that you're here to stay. And that kind of stuff doesn't huge amounts of money, more, compared to buying a whole new machine. But I kind of felt like that was like a good start. Like, hey, we're this new company, and I don't know, I just felt like it would boost morale. But then I also agree with reviewing the pricing and probably renegotiating some contracts with suppliers for the raw material.
I think that's a great idea.
And then
I don't think that's a dumb idea at all, but it's something that needs to be happening simultaneously. Because if you're proud of where you work, then you're going to work better. And, like when your house is clean, you can feel the spirit better and people are happier and there's less contention. And I think it's the same in your workplace.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so can somebody clarify something with the building for me? So I read that he was leasing the building, but then I feel like in another portion of it, they talked about how the guy owned it.
No, he had a lease with an option to buy it.
No, that part I remember, but then there was an additional part later that talked about, I wish I had it in front of me, I don't. I'll have to look at it again, but I remember reading it
later. For the original owner.
It made it sound like the original owner had bought it and that he was leasing it from him.
Oh, okay. With the option to buy it?
Yeah. Like it said that part where it was like, he has to include the lease of the building at whatever it was a year, plus he had the option to buy. But then later on when I read, and I don't know if it was in the agreement, I can't remember now, I don't have it in front of me. And it said something about the purchasing of the building, something. And I was like, wait. And then I kind of got confused. Maybe he was just talking about what it would cost if he did purchase it, but it didn't sound like that. It made it sound like the other guy had bought it already. It was his building.
I don't remember.
Shoot.
Oh, here it is. It said the building itself had been neglected. I wasn't the owner of the building, but the lease included an option to buy. So was this from the second?
Okay, that's the option to buy part, but then there was another part later.
Oh, here it is.
That gave
the building will be leased from the seller with a fixed rate for the first 5 years, renewable for 2 5-year periods with a right of refusal, an option to purchase after 10 years. You're right. He was actually leasing the building from the seller.
See,
and he could
I was like,
purchase
this guy,
after 10 years.
How did this, seriously, why did he take this deal? Like, I'm still waiting. Like, is there millions to be had or what?
I have no
but
idea.
The guy who sold this building and sold this company is raking in the dough. He, like, good for him for making this deal because he's set. But, like, why?
I think he didn't want to do it anymore. You know, it said he was actually quite young, and it was the second generation. So his parents were running the business. And I just think his heart wasn't in it, and he was just, because they said that the record keeping and everything had been kind of sloppy. They even said that they had, you know, they were slow on deliveries.
No, I'm trying to figure out why Jim bought it. He should not have, like there was nothing in there that said, please buy me.
I can't agree.
He can't even buy another business for 5 years. So even if he wanted to, like, have more than one business, he can't do anything until he does whatever with this.
You know what would be helpful to see is the offers on the other, I think he made offers like on 12 businesses and received financing for 3. It would be really interesting to be able to compare those to this, because maybe they're all kind of like this. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe it doesn't get much better than this. I don't know. This is such a different viewpoint than what we've been doing with startups, because, you know, he's walking into an already very established business and buying it outright. We haven't seen that before.
I know, but I'm with Jen. I think my big, huge red flag would have been, you cannot talk to any of the customers or the employees.
Or the employees, yeah.
I would have been like, ding, 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 bye-bye.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So Casey said, you know, congratulations. This is part of the last question.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Casey said, congratulations to the seller, because he's raking in the dough. You know, he's making a great deal. And that's true. I mean, this guy's really raking him over the coals. And that's part of business that really bothers me.
Yes.
Because if it's going to be a good deal, it needs to be a good deal for everyone. It's only a one-sided deal. Is somebody stealing or cheating if it's not good for both of them? And I don't see how this is balanced at all. How this is a good deal for both Jim and for the owner.
Well, you know what we're going to find out? I'm going to Google it right now and see what happened, because I actually did not look and see if he ended up being profitable. I can't see that it's still in business, but just a second.
That doesn't surprise me.
No. I've heard this guy's name before, though. Like, Jim Sharpe. I've actually heard of him before. Oh, here we go. Okay, guess what? Okay, this was in what year was this?
87.
Is it the 90s? 87? Okay.
Yeah, 87.
So here he is. Here's a picture of him. He sold it in 2008.
Hey, Casey, can you turn off your microphone?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, guess what he did? Sold it to a private equity firm in 2008. It said he purchased this in 87, securing 100%. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. He grew it from 4 million to 32 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Stop it.
Yeah.
Good for him.
He developed products and added a second factory in China. Okay, so
I guess he knew what he was doing.
Change anybody's mind? Okay, so the last question is, did he make the right acquisition? I mean, it didn't seem like it, but I have to go back to, I think he had faith in himself in turning businesses around, and I think he saw a business that was making money, but that was not ran and managed well, and that he could come in, review all the margins, the pricing, renegotiate some contracts, get rid of the union, and make it profitable.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
And I'm very impressed.
I feel like we weren't given enough information then.
No. Yeah, it almost felt
because
like
if he's not talking to the customer,
yeah,
if he's not talking to the customer, then you don't know what kind of businesses going on. I mean, you can look at the books, but yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just frustrated and annoyed.
No, I get it, because it kind of feels like we got not in a trap, but it's like all the things that we've learned. It feels like he was doing things that we've kind of learned not to do, and then he does them, and then he's profitable. So yeah.
Right. So there must have been some piece of information that we aren't given that showed the price differences of what was happening right then and what he saw as potential. Because even the financials that we see in his business plan that he's giving to the bank are still kind of like right on the edge. So I just feel like he knew
high
more
debt
than what was shared in the case.
Right.
Yeah.
It would have been really helpful to have something to compare it to.
Yeah. And I think it helps to realize. No, it's okay. I think it helps to realize that he was researching this company like in place of having a full-time job before he made this deal. And we read 10 pages of information on it?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. And I think it's just trying to help us learn how to analyze small amounts of data to give us an idea of what could be, but also helping us realize that if you do all of the research like he obviously did, you'll have a better idea and things will go a lot better.
He did say that like he had worked out to where he could have a working spreadsheet in like 3 days after he started to do research on a business. So he had to have had some profit and loss formula that he was using to know whether or not it was profitable. So, I mean, maybe that was it, but I'm with Jen. I think based on the information we had, everybody should be saying this was a bad deal. He shouldn't have taken it, because even if you look at his projections, it's not like he was going to be making a ton of money in that 5-year period. He wasn't. He was, going to be in debt for a long time. So I think they totally did not give us enough information to make like a really good decision on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So, any last thoughts for everybody on the case?
I don't think so. I think we've covered most of the information pretty thoroughly. Okay.
Jen, do you have anything else?
No, I've said enough.
Okay. No, you had a lot of good valid points. So, okay, we'll go ahead and stop the broadcast, and then